Good morning, traders. Welcome back to the Trader Bacon Show. I'm your host, Gates Adams. Happy Monday. Man, am I happy to be here with you folks today. One of my favorite things to do all week is spend this half hour and share insights and get some great ideas from other traders who are just achieving what it is that we're all working towards, what we're all going for. Some of us have hit, some of us are still on our way. At the end of the day, one of the things that I know is if we keep going, we'll continue to grow and develop. And that's one of the things that I love. I'm going to have to do it. It's one of the things I love about trader funding is it gives us time. If I had lost $1,000 every time I had a bad blow up in the last 2 years, there's just no way I'd still be able to be in the market. But knowing that I can just start over for a few bucks makes life easy. Now, on that note, we have exciting news. It's been a minute, but we are back up to 80% off on any size evaluation. Use promo code Benzinga for the best price always. And make sure to check that out. A couple of cool things. We've also got one data pass going on right now. Lifetime evaluations, lifetime PAs are $100. So they're lower than the monthly, which makes it a real easy choice when you're going that route. Big milestone around the corner. Over $396 million paid out to traders. We are on the cusp of breaking that $400 million mark. I think that is super, super exciting. That is $400 million in the pockets of traders. That's government money when you think about it. So go out there. If you have not done so, pick up a few extra evaluations right now at that 80% off sale using promo code Benzinga. Now, we will be giving away 3 evaluations over the course of this show. So you will see the form in the chat. Make sure you fill that out to have your chance at winning one of those. We did have 3 winners from last week's show. Those were Emily. Let's see here. They're going to be coming up here in just a second. Emily, Bob, and Sheree. Congratulations to you guys. Sorry, I did not have that in the background over here, but congratulations. We will be congratulating 3 more winners from today's show, so make sure you fill out that form. Now, we've got an interesting day today. We had a major drop in the NASDAQ overnight, I guess in all the major markets. Big gap, presumably due to tariffs and some of the information coming from that. So we may get a chance to talk about some of that today. But at the end of the day, I know the way I trade, and I know the way most of the traders I know trade. They don't trade the information that's coming from that. They trade the reaction. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today as we get some great insights from Bruce Profits, today's guest on the Trader Bacon Show. Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Are you ready? Because the Trader Bacon Show starts right now. Bruce, we got some fans in the chat already. Bruce, Angel says.
Hey, everybody.
Welcome, man. It's so great to see you. I appreciate you hanging out with me on that Monday morning. My Monday morning conversations are absolutely my favorite that I get to have all week. I love hearing that in the background, the sign of a happy life. I hear in the background there with you. All right. So first and foremost, I have to start off by asking, because I intentionally didn't ask before we got in here. What's going on with the hat? Tell me what's going on with the magician's hat. You pulling rabbits out of that?
Well, Gates, I do have some magic in here. You know, I got a big brain. I got to keep it all tucked away. This is my non-tilt hat. This hat keeps me from tilting. It helps me, just holds me accountable. If I'm thinking like Abraham Lincoln, I'm going to be responsible. So I just got to keep that.
I love that. I mean, and I think that's such a great point in the bigger sense that sometimes we just need these reminders of what it is that we're working towards and what kind of actions we need to take to get to the goal, to the goals that we're achieving. So I see you've got the hat. I see, in the background, you've got your whiteboard, you've got some motivational stuff on there. It's not in frame now, but I saw that you had some sayings behind you that are just, of course, designed to keep you on task. I know for me, I'm the Forge Trader. This is my reminder. When I'm in the charts and I'm messing up, I look down and I have to give myself that reminder what I'm working towards. And I'm working towards being forged into that, just that completely disciplined trader. That's the goal for me. I know that that's ultimately what will get me where I want. I love all the stuff that you got back there. How much of an impact do you think that really has on your day-to-day trading?
Honestly, Gates, I think it's changed my trading dramatically. From when I wake up and turn on the light in my office, I'm just brought to another world of success, of forward thinking, of where I want to be. Behind my screens, I actually have a lot of insignias that, identify traders, money, Kobe Bryant, what it takes to make $1 million in a year. So all of the things I'm trying to achieve, I'm seeing it on every version of my wall, and it's on my phone as well and on my computer. So I'm literally just brainwashing myself for success.
Well, you made that comment before, and I have to repeat my comment. Look, if you're going to be brainwashed, it might as well be by yourself for your own intentions. I love that, and I'm really big into the symbolism of the things, because I do think that speaks to our subconscious. And at the end of the day, like over 90% of the decisions that we make are made by our subconscious. And so if you can get that on board with the ultimate goals, get rid of the fear, get rid of the limiting beliefs, and focus on those targets that you're working towards, I think those decisions become more and more automatic, which I think is absolutely a game changer for most people. So anyway, well, I appreciate you sharing some of that with us. That's pretty cool. So let's talk a little bit about your history. How did you get into trading in the first place?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but the shortened version of it, I've been trading for about 8 years, 9 years. April 18th. It
Okay.
started with network marketing. So I
Mhm.
saw a network marketing company on an Instagram ad. There was a few of them at the time, Wealth Generators, iMarkets Live. I believe most of them are out of business now. But what they
Mhm.
were very good at was showing people making money from their phones. And
Sure.
that, oh, there goes my responsibility right there. And that's the reason I don't blow my accounts. So it started with network marketing, and then I started investing in different mentors and gurus in the Miami area. Some of them are very popular with like a lot of cars and fancy hashtag
Sure.
QBank. A lot of different people added to my journey. So it's been about 8 years. And then finally, my success came when I started learning about smart money concepts.
Mhm.
And I started focusing a little bit more on risk management. But 8 years total, multi-level marketing start, lost over 16, not well, I invested over $16,000 in learning from different people, and I probably lost over $70,000 along that way. But it all worked out, and Apex was the catalyst for that. But 8 years, I was trading Forex, and now I moved to futures starting 2024, and I never looked back.
That's amazing. And people often talk about the cost of education when it comes to trading, because we can learn a strategy. We can learn a strategy for free. Sometimes they're great, sometimes they're about worth what you pay for them. And so we can start to develop that. We can paper trade, and then once we start actually moving into the world of live trading, the psychology is different. Just any way you slice it, I don't think I know anybody who started trading and the first deposit that they made as funding their own account ever survived. Now, I think that's one of the reasons that you start to see, 90% of traders fail. It's because they don't have a second shot in them. And again, shameless promotion here. That's one of the reasons that I love the funding model so much. You talk about losing 70 grand and on top of the investment you made in education and mentoring. When it came to continuing to trade under those circumstances, how much of a shift happened for you when it became, I can get another evaluation for $30, $40?
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. I kind of skipped over it. I was trading my own funds for like the first 6 years, and then I got into
Mhm.
trading prop firms, mostly CFDs, Forex prop firms. And I wasn't
Mhm.
as successful there because I would go for the biggest accounts, and it was
Mhm.
still a big financial loss when I would lose $1,000 funded
Sure.
account. So then when I moved
Yeah.
to futures, especially Apex, the cost of the accounts to initially learn was so cheap relative to the experience and the dollars I'm seeing on the screen. I was having to, invest my whole paycheck in the past and lose that just to learn the same lesson I would learn from a $18 account based on discounts. Now, I came into Apex during a 90% sale. So I kind of went crazy. I was following Nutty Bar Trader, and I wanted to get the
Mhm.
20 accounts. And, I don't recommend that to any initial trader, because I did go like $3,000 to $5,000 in before then I made a profit, but it's only based on my experience from trading all of those
Sure.
funded accounts or challenges that I learned. And technically, it was extremely cheap for what
Sure.
I learned. But you can't replace funding accounts. Nothing is better than prop firms, especially when it comes to learning and earning. If you put
Right.
in, if you invested 2,000 into props, that would get you. Let's just say if it's a $50 challenge, that's over 40 challenges versus 2,001 account. You can blow that on one trade if you're not careful on NQ. And, you know, what are you really learning from blowing one account versus trading 40 and being able to manage and keep them alive? So props have saved me and gave me a new reference on risk management and allowed me to become a full-time trader. So I'm very grateful for Apex, and especially you, Gates, because some of your first interviews or the earlier interviews with Vince, with Roach Gang, with Facil, I learned so much from them. And even your own personal story, I internalize every trader that I come across. And I'm very grateful for this channel and Apex.
I will say, from what I've seen of those original early ones, I was very reliant on the guests because they were some pretty rough ones back in the day. If you guys out there in the chat haven't seen them, go YouTube some of the early Trader Bacon shows, and you'll see some fun. But it was such a great experience for me because not only was I having the opportunity to interview these people and expose these people and some of their secrets, if you will. I don't think that's necessarily the right word. But I also got to learn from them. I was motivated by them. And something that I don't talk about necessarily a lot publicly is that while I was doing the show, I quit trading out of frustration. And 3 months of continuing to do the show and talking to all of these traders and just hearing these stories, I realized I really wasn't that far off the mark. And it took 3 months for me to say, there's no way, I'm done. I'm getting back in, and I've had the best growth curve. And that was about a year ago that I got back in, and the best growth curve I've had since. And so I'm super, super grateful to talk to all of you guys who are further along than me. Let's be real clear about this. I'm still fighting my way through some of my own challenges, but I keep getting closer and closer every day. So it's super fun for me, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about what it is that you're actually doing in the chart. So you mentioned SMC, which is really where I am in my trading. So we're going to have a lot of fun having this chat because we're going to see probably pretty eye to eye on a lot of this. And actually, I was in a trade going into the show. It just got stopped out. I had moved my stop, probably shouldn't have, but I ended up in profit, but it's shot back up. It's probably going towards my target. In fact, let me close out
green is green.
that target order. When you see that, always make sure that you don't let that thing linger. But let's take a look at the charts and let's look at what it is that you're looking for, because I know we can have the same concept, but we can be looking for different things when it comes to ultimately finding those entries. So what does SMC actually mean for Bruce?
So for me, I internalize it as a high win rate or an ability to frame drawdown consistently. And that's what makes it smarter than, just typically following a trend. I'm very reversal minded. I'm a contrarian. So most of my chart, it has a lot of indicators and levels, and I'm literally looking for reversals at these different levels. Now, I've studied a lot of different smart money concepts. Just to name them, optimal trade entry was my beginning. And then I learned the 2022 model, which is a fair value gap. But what's really most important to me, and I'm starting to understand this, those higher time frame point of interest, you want to know what's going to initiate the trade. So smart money concepts kind of showed me what to focus on because I had so many levels in the past. But now I know that if I'm taking a scalp, because I'm a scalper, I'm looking at my higher time frame, which will probably be like the 15 or the 1 hour. Just on this chart, you can see there's some macros. So these are the ICT macros. This is an indicator. You can type that in and find a macro indicator. And it just kind of helps. Yeah, you have one? Good. Perfect. So this indicator, I've recently added. I really do like it. And I've had all my success without this indicator. So this is going to help me. But it does already line up with some of the levels I previously used. So this blue line is actually just London's high, right? So for me, I'm trading New York session. I'm waiting till after 9:30, after 10 o'clock. So just hypothetically, price comes up and breaches London's high at 9:38. So that's too early for me to take a trade. So what I would do is simple. Once you learn optimal trade entry, which is just basically Fibonacci, you're looking for a pullback. I want the pullback to be near or on that higher time frame level. So just a simple trade for this morning could have been, all right, as price is melting down below that higher time frame level, I'm going to do body to body. That's how I do my Fibonacci. Everyone can do them differently as long as you're consistent. Price retraces back to the 0.5 level of this Fibonacci, and it wicks perfectly that New York open. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. Now, everyone has different strategies, but all this is a retest. Price retested a level that it previously breached, and I entered it. And now, Smart Money Concepts, ICT frames this as optimal trade entry. There's a lot of other things within there you could have used, such as order block, fair value gap. All of that stuff will come back and be right tucked into the optimal trade entry. So as long as you're selling above the 50% level, I believe, to be a higher win rate. You don't want to sell, you don't want to chase price. So you always want to wait for price to pull back. I'm kind of all over the place, Gates, but essentially, if price is running in one direction, you want to wait until it pulls back before entering. And that's just my methodology.
Sure. Now, so when you're looking, and one of the things that I like about the way that you're describing this is this is all about confluence. This is not just, okay, I saw it hit a fair value gap. That's a point of interest for me. And so I'm going to go ahead and take the short. We're hitting that fair value gap. We're in that, 50% or better range. So we're back in premium at this point. And so we're looking for that move back down. So now you've got 2 to 3 to, in some cases, 4 or 5 pieces of information that are all telling you the same thing. So now I'm going to ask you, I don't know if you have stats on this or not, but do you know more or less what your win rate is based on the information that you're looking at?
Yes. So my win rate, it does vary. I'm between about 60 to 80%. Now, What that means is I can go weeks and weeks and weeks not losing, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes, and this is what I'm working on for this month specifically, sometimes my losses are a bit bigger than my winners. Mm-hmm. But since I win so often, my risk reward ratio does pan out to like a 1.2 or 1.3 to 1. So I'm definitely like a base hit scalper type of trader. I'm not holding my positions for an extensive period. As long as I can get that 1-to-1 and then add to it, I'm very happy with that. My psychology requires me to win a lot. I can't deal with I lost every day this week. If anything like that happens, I immediately start reducing risk, and then this hat gets a lot tighter, So
Well, but yes, I love that. And see, that's again, when I start talking to traders who are achieving consistency in their success, and I think that there's a distinction between getting a payout and getting a whole bunch of payouts, right? And one of the things that I see when it comes down to that consistency really is that I'm not just mastering an entry. I'm keeping stats. I'm learning what it is that wins for me on a consistent basis. I'm doing the work outside of when I'm actually trading. And so when you talk about, keeping your stats, look, I hear traders preach, oh, you better not take a trade that's not 2-to-1 or better, right? And for some traders, that's important. That's meaningful. They might have a 45% win rate. And so they absolutely need that. And there are strategies that will ultimately have those kinds of numbers. And that's great. But you know what works for you. And we were talking a little bit about this before the show started. Back in the early days, I had a less than 1 risk reward ratio. And the strategy was phenomenal. When I was on point, I was in it winning like 83%. And I needed a 70% win rate to break even. But when I had 2 to 3 losses in a row because of that less than 1 risk reward ratio, it would take 5, 6, 7 winning trades in a row to get out of that hole as I would perceive it, which I now try to focus on. That's just a balance fluctuation, not a hole. But we're still human. We still see things the way that we see them. And so I know that strategy is phenomenal, but it's not necessarily the best strategy for me, psychologically speaking, at least at this point, right? So I think it's really important to do the type of work that you're doing to really have a deeper understanding of not just what works, but what works for you.
Yes, very individualized approach. You have to take trading very personal. Just to run through this really quickly, Smart Money Concepts, they have what's known as market maker models, so sell and buy models, and that kind of identifies all the different types of trades you can take. My initial success with prop firms came from taking turtle soup trades, meaning as soon as price ran in a higher time frame point of interest, I would enter it blindly. Now, I don't really trade like that as much anymore, and that's almost impossible to do with minis, in my opinion. You'd have to be trading micros just because of the risk, and the market's extremely volatile right now. So aside from the turtle soup, I learned after passing a lot of accounts and getting a few payouts, I learned about the unicorn model. Now, the unicorn model, it might go over a lot of people's heads, but it's just a breaker block and a fair value gap lined up. That's why I labeled the breaker and fair value gap. Now, that
Right.
also lines up with the OTE level, and it's also just a fair value gap. So someone could say that it's a 2022 model, it's the OTE model, it's a unicorn setup. There's a lot of versions to get in the same trade. What really matters to me, and I know what matters to you, Gates, is that risk management component, knowing where that
Sure.
stop loss is going to go and where to quit. I usually close my winners very prematurely, but my losers, I have to close them when the stop gets hit. And if it's a premature close, I'm potentially on tilt because my stop
Sure.
should be exactly where price is invalidated. But
Mhm.
long story short, there's a lot of methods. Just look for a pullback and look for those confluences, like you mentioned, Gates.
I love it, man. Now, and again, I can associate with this because this is very similar to the types of stuff that I look for. I'm not so much a unicorn guy. I from what I've seen, I just don't see it often enough. But you're looking for those smaller trades. You're a scalper, as you mentioned. So that brings the question that I always think about. Like, I really wish I could find something that would give me the right risk reward ratio, the right number of entries, and just that smaller target, because my targets are generally pretty big. Like, unfortunately, like I said, I got stopped out in profit on this trade that I was on. However, I would have loved to have had my entire move just, eliminate, just taken out at profit, 10, 15 points up. So for you, when you're looking for these types of trades, how many entries are you seeing on a typical day?
Yes. So with these type of trades, I'm looking between 9:30 or 10 to about 11:30, and then 2 to 4. So I'm always going to see, and this is just because every day I'm marking up and forward testing at least 3 entries. Now,
Okay.
it could be up to 10 because I'm willing to look at the turtle soup, the unicorn, just the regular fair value gap, the OTE. But in general, at least 3 setups are forming. That 10 to 11, there's at least one there. There's going to be a penultimate reversal probably at like that 10:40 to 11 time frame. And then in PM session, there's like usually a 1:30 to 2:30 trade, a 3 to 4 trade, that end of market trade that plays out quite often. So at least 3 to 4 setups a day just on MNQ. But like you said, that's if you're on the lower time frames. That's being on the 1 minute, the 30-second,
Sure.
the 5 minute as well. You can at least probably get 1 or 2 entries. So to be a scalper means you should see ample entries. If you're not, then you really need to work on your model as a scalper. Now, if you're an intraday trader, you may only see 1 entry a day, maybe 3 a week, 4 a week. But if you're a scalper, you want your system to come up with at least 3 to 5 entries a day.
Well, and of course that's sort of the point, because if you're a one and done type of guy, you have a losing trade, it automatically means you have a losing day. Whereas if you're looking at 3 trades a day and you're at least 1-1 and you're running about a 60% win rate, chances are, now statistically speaking, obviously there's anomalies, right? But statistically speaking, you're probably going to have a winning day most days. Have you found that this is the case for you, that you tend to see at least 2 wins a day?
So I do see, I wish I would say yes. What happens to me, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I enter so much sometimes on that first trade. I believe in it so much, and I start to scale in that I hit my profit target, and then I just walk away for the day. I love to have a 30-minute day or shorter and just live in that. And there is opportunity to make more money. And I would love to consistently make 2 wins a day, but I'm more often getting 1 good win and stopping for the day. That's my success. And then there are days where a little bit tougher, where I do need the 2 to 3 wins to mitigate a drawdown from the initial trade or the second trade. Now, my strategy, although I have a high win rate, there are a lot of days where I come in losing. So I have to have the psychology to say, okay, this was incorrect. Let's move on. So my palette, because in the past I would take a lot of trades, I'm willing to stop around 4 to 5 trades. But if that first trade really plays out to my daily goal of around 250, I'm done.
And I think that's fantastic. A lot of people will argue that you're not allowing the statistics to work themselves out if you're not taking all of the trades based on your particular model. And if your model includes afternoons, what gives? But the flip side is, if you're at your daily target anyway, why put that additional risk on? So there's always, and again, I think that comes down to our own tolerance, our own feelings about, winning, losing, how we respond and react. And, as they say, know thyself, be aware of, any potential pitfalls. And if you see that taking that first trade and it being a solid winner is perfect for your end of day, be done. You've got the rest of the day to spend with that kid on the background.
Yep. Just to say this, the SMC teacher, ICT, he speaks about not dulling your edge. Just because something works doesn't mean you work it until it doesn't. Literally, you can just feed yourself with one good trade a day. And I literally have, for the most part. There are some days where I've traded extensively, and most of those days you end up learning a lot more than you're actually earning. So that's why I love props too, because it allows you to learn through the drawdown. When you have your own live account and you're going into drawdown, it's really hard psychologically to even learn. It's a race to get back to where you were. And I'm trading a live account again now, and I'm doing fairly well, but it came from managing props respectfully and taking my time and realizing that there's so many entries. All I need is my piece. Like in my group, we talk about just getting our piece and being fine. We just have to get a piece and we're okay.
Well, and it's nice because not only are you trading your live funds, but you've got sort of the backup in that, in those funded accounts that you're operating in as well, which sort of takes a little bit of that sort of gut feeling, I think, away from, gosh, I take 10% of my account today. Hopefully you're not doing that. Proper risk management says you don't. But when we have those moments and you've sort of worked out some of that by being a prop trader, right? Definitely. Now, ultimately at this point, and I think it bears mentioning that you don't have a quote unquote day job anymore, do you?
No, since I think May last year, because I was a recruiter recruiting nurses for different hospitals. I was doing that for about 3 years. And then I was a contractor. So I was 1099, kind of similar to how props are 1099. So I was already in the mindset of kind of working for myself, even though I worked for a company. And at that point, they didn't renew my contract. But I had already started with Apex and received, multiple 10K plus payouts. And I told myself, I'm going to give myself a window of about 6 weeks. As long as I get another large payout within that 6 weeks, I wouldn't even apply for another job. So once I was let go, I didn't update my resume. I didn't apply for anything. I simply just started watching my son full time and waiting for my setups. Now, it wasn't just all smooth sailing. I did have to reduce my risk because I was a little bit too overzealous and I didn't have the backup anymore. So I had to reduce my risk and go down to just a few micros, which changed my trading and allowed me to keep funded accounts for super long periods of time and actually treat them like a real live account. So it was a blessing in disguise. I'm a full-time day trader, primarily funded through props. Although my live account is doing well, prop firms do pay my bills and I pay my bills ahead of time. So first quarter was a blessing. The first quarter hasn't even ended. The first month was a blessing, one of my biggest months to date. So I'm very grateful.
Zaffer says full-time money printer. I love that. And of course, when you start to be 100% reliant on this as income, you start to have to take a different approach. You mentioned reducing your risk, not necessarily because of the amount of losses, I think, but probably more of that psychological mindset of if I lose X amount, that's money that's not now going to be available to pay my bills. And so that's when we start to, you talk about tilt and keeping that hat on straight and everything like that. How much of that do you think has really been a factor in really managing and maintaining a very consistent level of performance?
I believe it's been everything because I've come across a lot of successful traders. I'm a little weird when it comes to interviews. I try to contact every person that's interviewed that I'm interested in to see if I could forge a relationship or at least learn or share some information. And a lot of times it works out great. And through that networking, I've realized there's many successful traders, but the only thing that keeps them afloat is their risk management. And since I've dedicated myself to that, I've had a lot more peace of mind of just going to sleep and waking up knowing that all I got to do is just maintain my risk management. I'll have my accounts and a payout will come eventually. In the past, Apex had specific rules about when you could get the payout. And then now it's a lot more loose where all it takes is 8 days. So I'm even mentally adjusting to that now. The opportunity has increased drastically, but at the same time, in the old format, you can still make the same money. So it's just about being patient, letting the profit targets that you have in mind come. And when they do, don't be afraid to just pay yourself. Don't try to run up $1 million Apex account when in reality, your job was only paying you $4,000 to $6,000. Simply just be appreciative and grateful and focus on the risk because there's always going to be another trade. NASDAQ is going crazy. It's going to keep going crazy. It's just about you personally and your risk.
Absolutely. Well, sage advice for sure, and obviously it's working out for you at this point. And I think I can pretty much guess the answer based on what we've seen in the background there. But
Yes.
having this opportunity to work from home, and not work from home for 8 to 10 hours, but work from home for 30 minutes sometimes, or maybe a couple hours throughout the day. How has that had an impact on your personal life outside of the world of trading?
It's been amazing. Number one, I've been able to pay more attention to my family. I'm learning how to be a lot more considerate and patient. I'm blessed to not have to clock in and out. I'm blessed to wake up and find opportunity and take it home and then make more than most people would make in an entire month just in that one day. So I've had to learn to become a lot more humble and understanding of other people's situations and their perspective. I'm spending more time with my son than probably than my father has ever spent with me just as a baby. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity. But how has it like changed or anything for me? I'm just super grateful, gratitude. I just wake up thinking and I'm just super, it doesn't even feel real, to be honest. So that's why I'm always in a competition with myself to get better, and to manage risk even better, because I know that the final stage is like managing a hedge fund, and that's going to require complete discipline. And I do plan on, attaining that sooner than later. But prop firms changed my life, and I forgot the main question you asked, but I'm just so grateful. Yeah.
Well, I think gratitude is pretty key, and I can absolutely hear that in your voice and in your answers. Man, this has been absolutely so much fun spending some time with you today. I'm so glad that you kept the hat on for the full interview. That has just sort of made my morning. And again, just a quick reminder to all of you guys out there, if you haven't filled out the form yet, make sure to fill out the form. We are giving away 3 evaluations for people watching the show live. So get that filled out as quickly as possible. We're about to cut out. And if you don't win, or you want to add even more to the mix, make sure right now the key 80% off, 1 day to pass, $100 lifetime PA fees. And some of the big daddies are actually discounted even further than usual. So I think you can get like like up to a $250K for in the $50 range. So make sure to use promo code Benzinga to get the biggest discounts available. Go get it. Have some fun with it. Let us know how you're coming along. I love it when viewers of the show end up becoming guests on the show. I know you've been watching for a while, and I so appreciate that. For those of you out there, definitely seen a few names in there that have been on the show or are going to be on the show in short order. So thank you so much for that. As always, I appreciate you guys. I love you all. Can't wait to see you all next Monday on the next episode of the Trader Bacon Show. Thanks for joining the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Make sure to join us next time, Mondays at 11 a.m.